Welcome to Fantasy Sports Network, the world's first 24/7 television channel devoted entirely to fantasy sports. You can stream us on your Roku player, follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Sportsnet, and visit us at fantasysportsnetwork.com.
Hello and welcome to Fantasy Sports Today. I'm Laura Diakun, joined alongside Garion Thorne, and we've got lots to get to here. A little bit of everything. No baseball. Well, we may get to some baseball.
No football.
No football.
Which I've come to terms with over the past week. Just took a couple Anthony Davis blocks, and I remembered how much I love basketball, so we're all good.
Well, after the lovely Cowboys display on Monday, I'm good without football for a little bit too.
Someone lost their survivor.
Someone lost a lot. But let's move on to happier things. No, the house is still there.
Okay, well,
but not for lack of trying there, yeah. We've got Matt Larkin coming up from the Hockey News. We'll be dishing about the NHL, plus Nate Ryan from USA Today with a full preview of the AAA Texas 500. I was waiting for a sound effect. That's pretty good. Okay. But you and I, yes, we're going to talk a little basketball here. And unfortunately, not a very good start to the career of Mr. Julius Randle because he broke his tibia, yesterday. So just 2 points in 14 minutes of play, the 7th overall pick in this year's draft. So we're not exactly sure when he's going to be back. Not really owned a lot, at least in Yahoo Leagues, 35%. But I mean, there may be some people out there that are now looking for some replacements. And you hold on to him, I would think.
At this point, I would say drop him.
Really,
At this point, really, I mean, the way basketball is set up, you don't have an IR spot in most leagues. So I'm assuming that Julius Randle, even in a 12-team league, was probably your last pick, your second last pick. I mean, we're not talking about a guy who had a ton of upside this year because, you know, it's not really a great team when you're talking about the Lakers. So, I mean, if you did have Randle, I mean, look, even last night, he's on pace to play maybe 15 to 16 minutes in that game. He had 2 points. So he might have been a guy to sort of project later into the year. And maybe if he's someone to, you know, keep tabs on. A lot of people are going to forget about him now with the injury. So when he does come back at some point, starts getting some playing time under his feet, maybe he's a guy that towards your playoff push you can pick up and sort of seek out points that way. But I wouldn't have really invested too much stock into him at the start of this year just because he is a rookie and I don't know where his shots were going to come from. But if you did have him, a guy like Mirza Teletovic, who I think is going to get a lot more playing time with Brooklyn now that Paul Pierce isn't on that roster and shot 39% from three-point range in 2013. He's a nice sort of solid add at your power forward, small forward position. Or even Boris Diaw. I mean, a lot of people just ignore Boris Diaw because we all like to make jokes about, you know, he's a little rotund, likes his wine, likes his cheeses and his breads, but
sounds good.
I mean, last night he only scored 5 points, but 9 rebounds and 6 assists. He's actually had the most assists of anyone on that Spurs team. Played 33 minutes too. Now, a lot of that had to do with the fact that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing, but I think he's going to be able to maintain this. I mean, the Spurs will sit him at some point. He's an older player, but he's a sort of interesting, just all categories player. Like, he's going to contribute across the board in every place. He's not going to score a ton of points. But as an end of the roster guy, a back end of the roster guy, definitely sort of a stabilizer in a lot of categories.
All right. So, well, bad night for the Lakers pretty much all around. They did not look very good. But happy and smiles all around for the Rockets. Especially we want to talk about Terrence Jones here. So he played 31 minutes yesterday, 16 points, 13 rebounds, and a little bit of everything after that. We had 3 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Now, we're waiting for this breakout year for him. He's in his 3rd year now. Is this the year that it's going to happen? Is this the season?
I think so. I mean, this Rockets team has always had a spot for a guy like this. Even to go back 2 years ago when they were playing at their best, they had a guy like Patrick Patterson sort of playing this stretch 4 role. I mean, they do it so well. And Jones doesn't quite shoot the 3 ball as well as a guy like Patterson does. He's only sitting around, he sat at 30% for, last season. In his rookie year, he shot 26%. So he's not, you know, setting the world ablaze. But those are respectable numbers from beyond the arc. It's a guy who can shoot 1 or 2 a game and would maybe get you 2 or 3 a week in terms of your fantasy lineup. But look, very, very good field goal percentage. Shot 54% last season. I mean, it's nothing to stick your nose up at. I mean, he's a very good player, and I think you could sort of see him now that, you know, Chandler Parsons isn't on this team anymore. You could sort of see him in that role. Obviously, Parsons was more of a small forward, but he did log minutes at power forward. So 13 rebounds I don't think is a constant thing. You're not going to be playing a team like the Lakers this often who just miss as many shots as they do. But, I mean, Dwight Howard, not only is he a very good rebounder, and so that will, you know, teams will have to focus on boxing him out, and that will open up more rebounds for Terrence Jones. But Howard gets a little lazy sometimes. I mean, and also he likes to go for the block. So you come into situations where Jones will be the only rebounder under the glass for Houston. I think the rebounding numbers are definitely going to be there. And for him to score 12 to 13 points a night, I think is, you know, that's something you can expect.
And according to Kobe, D12 is soft as well.
Wow. Kobe.
Yeah. Kobe. Well, he's back. Okay.
He is back.
So from one Jones to another now, we wanted to talk about Perry Jones. Now, Scott Brooks has come out and said he will start at small forward for the Thunder, which is very good news for him, a great opportunity, but should fantasy owners jump on that boat as well, because his ownership is in single digits here, 4% on Yahoo the last time I checked.
Well, look, we're going to talk a little bit later about the Indiana Pacers and where their scoring is going to come from. And I'm not in any way saying that the Thunder are near that sort of position, but I mean, you look at this lineup, and aside from Russell Westbrook, who might take 70 shots, he might very well.
Is that the over-under for?
Yeah, the over-under 70 shots a game right now. But
right.
Because you look at usage rates from last season. So you have Kevin Durant, who led the league in usage rates. So with the amount of time on the floor, how often they are the primary option in their own usage. So 33% of the time, 1/3 of the Thunder's plays ended in Kevin Durant taking a shot. That was the highest in the NBA. A guy like Reggie Jackson, who maybe was sort of I loved him this year. I had a lot of Reggie Jackson stock before he went down in training camp. Don't know how long he's going to be out, but 22.6% usage rate. So these are huge chunks of shots that are coming out of that lineup, and I think Perry Jones, just for the sheer benefit of being on the court for extended minutes, could somewhat benefit from this. I mean, if you look at his numbers last season per 36, 10.2 points, 5.4 rebounds, he's not going to blow you away from any sense, but even when a guy like Durant comes back, I mean, we sort of saw Jeremy Lamb almost get this role where really within this offense with a guy like Westbrook, Ibaka, and KD, you just have to stand behind the three-point line and make open shots. You're going to get them. Jeremy Lamb couldn't do it. So if Perry Jones can prove in this couple-week stretch that he can score, he might take over that role, and that would be very beneficial fantasy-wise.
Exactly. You got the chance, you're going to hold it, you're going to just let it pass
Yeah.
by. That's the thing.
Slip away.
Yes.
As the great Marshall Mathers once put.
Slip away. Yeah. Okay. Very busy night in the NBA.
Yes.
12 games on the schedule. So a little daily fantasy. If you are a daily fantasy player, Garion has some players that he likes here. We're going off the FanDuels and their numbers there. And I know you're going to mention a player that we actually just talked about.
Yeah, Terrence Jones. I think this is a great matchup for him. I mean, we talked about all the reasons I like him in general, but going up against Utah, who's just not a good defensive team, had one of the worst defensive ratings in the entirety of the NBA last season. And the last time they played, Jones dropped 30 points. So I really like him right now. He's going for a little over $5,000 at $5,700. So right around your 15 to 20 range. But I think he's definitely sort of that player. And I think maybe on a back-to-back, a lot of people are going to overlook him tonight. So I would definitely put him out there. And then a couple guards who are very, very cheap. Darren Collison right now going for $5,500 is going to be the point guard in Sacramento. I think a lot of people in real life have pointed out that Darren Collison for Isaiah Thomas is not a very good trade-off in terms of actual winning percentage, but he's going to get minutes. So I like that because, again, the Lakers allowed 25.8 assists per game last year. That was second most in the NBA. Their defensive rating was third worst in the NBA. And Collison's a decent shooter, career 46% shooter. For a guard, that's very good because you'll see a lot of times point guards have to hoist up shots at the end of the clock, stuff like that. A career 37.6% three-point shooter, so I think it's not bad. And Donald Sloan for Indiana, because someone has to score on that team. No Hill, no Watson. Stucky's going to be banged up. He's going to play, and Philly is terrible.
Poor Indy. Oh, man. Okay, we only have a few seconds, but Game 7 World Series, who do you like?
I'm going to take the Royals because
you bet on the Giants?
Ned Yost, Ned Yost has outmanaged Bruce Bochy this series.
Who would have thought we'd say that?
Yusmeiro Petit should be starting Game 7.
Okay, well, he's not. All right, Garion, we're going to give you a breather here. Thanks very much.
No problem.
Enjoy all the games tonight.
I will.